All right, welcome back to the Pitch Side Pub. It's Friday. It's Pie Day, Friday the 14th, and we are going to talk today about the recently announced England roster for the World Cup qualifiers coming up. And this is Thomas Tuchel's first roster as the English manager, so it's been highly anticipated. And I gotta say, it's not what I expected. At least that's for damn sure. It's not that I even think it's bad. I just have a few really obvious questions that I would love to get an answer to, because I just don't quite understand what the thinking is behind some of it. So we'll see. We'll discuss here. Get in the comment section as we go here. So we'll make sure everything's set up. Get in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts on this roster. I got some really obvious ones that I want to discuss, and we're going to do so with the help of James Alcott's tactics board, which I debuted in another live stream earlier this week, and we're going to use again here. You see what I have up there that's actually the starting lineup from the Euro final, and we're going to talk about how much has changed since then. That was only last summer, but that was the starting lineup there, and how much has changed, and we're going to go based off of that. So we'll get into moving that around in a second. My first question here, right off the bat, I have to say, why are there four goalkeepers? There's two games. Why are there four goalkeepers? I know you got to have three, but why four? And I actually love the inclusion of Trafford here, because he's been so good this year, and I feel like he could be the guy that takes over for Pickford long term. I don't know what Dean Henderson's doing on here, or Ramsdale. You could pick or choose either one of them, but in general, just why are there four goalkeepers? I just don't understand that at all. So if I'm missing something obvious there, let me know in the comments, because I don't get that at all. Outside of that, I don't love the re-inclusion of Henderson. He left in strange terms to go to Saudi. Now he's back at Ajax. Yeah, I guess he's playing well, but and I guess the way to explain his inclusion is that Kobe Mainoo is hurt, right? And if Kobe Mainoo is healthy, there's no Jordan Henderson here. I would hope that's the case. But I would still rather see Adam Wharton on this team, who is healthy enough to be playing for the under-21 team. Now, I guess he's still ramping back up in his fitness, so that was sort of the explanation. But these are two games where you're going to have a lot of substitutions, a lot of guys are going to play, and they're two games, frankly, that you should go out and really just, whoop up on. And so I would much rather have him. I think Jordan Henderson's time with the national team has passed. I don't really care how well he's playing for Ajax. I also don't like the terms in which he left English football and went to Saudi Arabia, and so I hold that against him personally. But I just don't think I think his time on the English team has passed. So has Kyle Walker's. And to have Kyle Walker on here instead of Trent Alexander-Arnold is far and away the most shocking selection or choice for me, because of the fact that I half expected, at least in part of the time, for Tuchel to run a three-back set with two wing-backs, and that's where Trent Alexander-Arnold ought to be. He is somewhat miscast as a traditional right-back simply because of his defensive liabilities, but in a wing-back system, in a three-back system with wing-backs, he can shine because he can get forward with more ease, and he doesn't have as much of the defensive responsibilities. That is what he is born to do. And I was in the process of making a video about the possible setups that we might see under Tuchel, and instead I'm just going to do it in this video because a lot changed, because I really expected a few different guys to be in here, and I've recorded it, and it just simply hasn't worked out. So frankly, I'm kind of glad it didn't get posted, but I'm really shocked to see a few inclusions here. I did not anticipate Jordan Henderson. I just assumed Trent Alexander-Arnold was going to be a part of this. I think I understand the veteran experience of Kyle Walker, but and he has played better with AC Milan than he was doing with Manchester City, and against Latvia and Albania, yeah, he'll be fine. And none of this is like, oh no, they're going to lose these games and not qualify. So we're nitpicking to a certain extent, but it just feels like it's time for the changing of the guard, and this was an opportunity to do it. And instead of Wharton and Trent Alexander-Arnold, we get Kyle Walker and Jordan Henderson, and I don't quite understand that. Dan Byrne, fine. I mean, I get why he's there, but he's an older guy. Lewis Skelly is really that's a stretch for me. And nothing against him; he's a good player, but he's so young, doesn't have a lot of experience. So, like on one hat, we're going with the experience, and the other we're going with the dramatic inexperience. So, okay, fine. They are thin at fullback. I saw some love for Jed Spence, who probably deserved to be on this team. I would have taken him over Lewis Skelly. He has played more. He has played better at this point. Worse team, but better player. I like the Livramento inclusion, but some shocking some missouts here. Harry Maguire, who has played really well since Ruben Amorim took over, and can fit in that 3-back set. He has been a mainstay with England, and he was struggling as a back 2 pairing in a 4-back set, with 2 center backs, but as that center back under Amorim, he has done quite well. And so if Tuchel wanted to play 3 at the back, he could have fit in quite nicely there. So I'm a little surprised not to see him. Jared Branthwaite's exclusion here is really, really shocking, if for no other reason than they have so few left-footed defenders anyway. And he is a left-footed center back who could play in that left center back role in a 3-back, and could even play at left back in a 4-back if they didn't want that guy to get forward. And that's where we can go to the tactics board, because in a 4-back set, what Thomas Tuchel does, regardless of whether he goes 4 at the back or 3 at the back, he likes to have 3 at the back building up, which means a guy like Kyle Walker can get up if he's playing right back, and these 3 sit back. So you can have a left back who is more of a center back type. It could have been Joe Gomez. He can do both. Dan Burn can do both. That's probably why he is included there. But you could have seen Jared Branthwaite there, even though he is by no means a left back. You could have seen him be in that position, and then when they push up the pitch, they spread like this. He stays back, and these guys get forward. Now, it's not going to be Kobe Mainoo, right? So he's out. We've got obviously we have Bellingham. We have Saka's not going to make it. He's hurt. So he's out. We got to update the board a little bit. Stones, he's not on it. He's out. Shaw, he's not on it. He's out. So it's definitely going to be Gahey. I bet we see some Konza. And who's going to be the other? If they go 3 at the back, Kwanzaa? Is it? I mean, Levi Cole is the other left footer here. So that's probably he's probably the one who's going to get some time. If it was me, I would have. If you're going to go 3 at the back in a set, you go with Levi Colwell, because he is left-footed, right? So he's really one of your few options there. So you could see him. It's going to be Rice and I guess Jordan Henderson. We'll have to add him because we don't even have him created, right? But here's Jordan Henderson. Didn't expect that. Is he the other holding midfielder here? I strongly believe that with all of the number 10s on this team, Jude Bellingham should play deeper. And that's where you could have Walker as the wing back here. Who's going to be the left? Is it going to be Lewis Skelly? Possibly. Is it going to be Livramento? Who knows? Who knows who it's going to be over there on that side? That's where Jed Spence would have been nice, even though he's right-footed. He has played a fair amount of left back, so he's got some experience over there. So if they go 3 at the back, do you try Reece James on the far side, even though he's a right back? If they won't play Reece James at left back, he's got to start over Kyle Walker at right back, right? Because Reece James is the one guy that, when healthy, you can say is as good as Trent Alexander-Arnold. He is of that caliber. He just has so rarely been healthy. And they're very different players, but I think he's just as good in very different ways. Phil Foden, I think, still belongs on this roster, even though he has not been in great form. And you can say the same thing about, Cole Palmer. They belong on this roster. And then, we got to pick a left wing back over there. Let's just say, for argument's sake, it's going to be Livramento. Okay, just for argument's sake, let's put him over there. And they could line up something like this in a 3-4-2-1 with Bellingham not really playing as a pivot, but getting forward, the width coming from these guys. Okay, and the thing about Thomas Tuchel is he loves his number 10s, no matter what formation he's in. And by the way, if you're seeing any analyst or YouTuber or content creator, anybody, any media member, anybody saying that Tuchel always plays this or Tuchel always plays this, they're lying to you, all right? And their credibility should be absolutely gone right then and there, because Thomas Tuchel does not play any one fixed system. He's run 4-3-3s, he's run 4-2-3-1s, he's run 3-5-2s, he's run everything over his years at many clubs with many different rosters. He has run a lot of different systems, and so what he does is he makes the most out of the players that he has, and he fits them in. He builds his system around them, which is exactly what you need out of an international manager. International managers have to take their star players and put them in the best possible positions to succeed, not force the players they have into a system. And that was the downfall of Gareth Southgate. It's been a downfall here in the States with our awful manager whose name I'm blocking out now. I can picture, but that's what international managers need to do, is to work around the players that they have. So he will fit them into whatever system he thinks is best, what formations, and don't get hung up too much on starting formations or what's listed on your app or on the piece of paper before the game, because they're going to do what they're going to do anyway. And what Thomas Tuchel does is he focuses around the number 10s, these guys, and then getting some width, okay? And so there's your attack, which I don't love, by the way. I don't love this being the attack. And then you get these in this space, right? In these spaces here, you get these rotations and these triangles. And they rotate, boom. They rotate, okay? And they work in these spaces. And that's what he focuses on, getting these little through balls in, looking for Harry Kane, right? And that's where I love these number 10s, and I like Bellingham playing more as an 8. Okay, so if you see him listed there in some formation like this, don't get hung up on, he's using Bellingham as a pivot. Not really, because I don't know when this obsession with having a double pivot came about, or why it's just assumed everybody has to have that, but you don't, especially when you have 3 at the back. So this guy, Rice, can sit, deeper and be the true, cleanup man here, and Bellingham gets forward a lot more often, right? And he gets to go box to box, which is what he's so good at. Yes, he can play as a number 10 if they wanted to do something like this, which I'm afraid may happen, okay? Or you could replace Foden with Palmer or any of these guys, because they have lots of number 10s. I could see something like that, but I don't like that. I don't like that at all, because I think Henderson's more of a guy like Rice who's going to sit there. I don't love him trying to go box to box at this point in his career. Yes, Bellingham can play as a number 10, but they have lots of number 10s who can do that, and I think he is so dynamic when he's going back and forth, using those long strides to get up and down the pitch, dominating the entire midfield, cleaning up the mess. That is where he is dynamic. So I would like to see him be deeper, okay, and have a guy like have Foden and Palmer play together, and I would keep Foden on this side, put Palmer over there. That's just me. Now, one interesting twist we could see, okay, is we have Anthony Gordon on this roster. Could he be used in this type of situation, right? He's obviously a traditional winger, but I don't think they're going to run with traditional wingers, because he's about the only one they have. Well, they have Marcus Rashford too, and that's a whole different discussion. But again, both of them do well on the left. So could that be Gordon, or could that be Marcus Rashford? Could he play as a wingback? Now I'm getting really out there. I don't actually expect that to happen, but hey, wild stuff could happen. Or is having a guy like Rashford, who has rejuvenated himself at Aston Villa, on this roster a signal that we could see more of a 4-3-3? And I do think that is a real possibility here, or a 4-2-3-1 is more likely. And by the way, 4-2-3-1 and 4-3-3, exact same formation, okay? Do not get hung up on that. That is the same formation, and it really only varies based on the instructions of this guy here, okay, and what he's supposed to do. So if you are running it with more defensive-minded players, right? If you had that set up, it really is a 4-2-3-1. And in that case, you don't want winger-type guys. You want number 10-type guys, okay? And you might have Bellingham playing something like this, which I hate, by the way. I absolutely hate. Or you'd put Foden out there, Palmer out there, Bellingham in there. Honestly, that's a real possibility. That could be a starting lineup right there. Wouldn't shock me. It's also not one I like at all. At all. If you don't like Foden's form, Could be, whoops, didn't mean to do that. Could be Ezzy. Okay, that's a real possibility. I wouldn't hate that as much, but I really don't like this setup. And frankly, I don't think Jordan Henderson belongs on this field with these caliber of players. I would do this. Maybe you keep Ezzy there, or maybe that becomes Gordon instead. You keep Foden there, or you have Foden here, Palmer here, whatever. But maybe the inclusion of guys like Marcus Rashford are a signal that he's going to go with more traditional wings. Which, if you had Bukayo Saka, you could do something like that in a heartbeat, right? And this is why a 4-2-3-1 is exactly the same as a 4-3-3. It's really just a matter of what this guy's doing, right? Do these guys tuck in a little bit and this guy stays deep, 4-2-3-1, or he plays as more of a traditional 8. These guys are, man, stop doing that. These guys are more on the wing, same exact formation, same exact setup, right? Something like that. So if you had Bukayo Saka, I could really see this happening. But we don't have Bukayo Saka. It's not we, I'm not English. But you don't have Bukayo Saka. So you could put Foden out here. I personally think Phil Foden, when in form, is one of their dynamic players, along with Bellingham, Palmer, and Kane, and Trent Alexander-Arnold, who didn't even seem to make this team, nevertheless. But I could see Foden playing out here, even though he is not nearly as good on the wing. He is much more dynamic in this sort of number 10 role, and Tuchel does like to go with 2 number 10s. So that's the thing that I'm catching here is he's not as big on the wing play, and so if you're going to go with wings, then these guys really have to come up and play as 10s. So you're going to go with sort of a 4-2-3-1, okay, like this, something like this. I could see that being a starting lineup, but Bellingham's getting up here and playing in these pockets a lot more because they're so much better than the opponents they're playing in this game, and Declan Rice just has a lot of cleanup to do, and these guys get forward, but they don't get quite as forward, or one of them gets forward. Reece James gets forward, and then these guys sit back here a little bit, and when they're on offense, it looks sort of like that, all right, and then when they're on defense, they drop back, boom, 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 he drops back, okay, and these guys are here, and they're sort of dropping back into a 4-4-2, okay, when they're on defense. They'll probably be more like that, right? That's probably how they set up on defense. So, a lot of choices here, but this is where I'm really surprised Trent Alexander-Arnold's not on there. I don't think Rashford quite gets the start, although he is, Tuchel is, leaning towards the veterans here, so maybe he does. Maybe he really likes what he's seen. I really thought we were going to get 3-4-2-1 here, but I'm not sure that's going to be the case because of the way the roster has played out. It seems to be signaling 2 in the back. So I could see Guehi and Konza, Reece James getting the start. It's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We need one more guy. So that's probably going to be maybe a guy like Ezzy here. Okay, you could see something like that, or you could see Gordon. Gordon has earned a spot here. That's a possibility, right? We could see something along these lines. I'm really, really surprised by the exclusion of Morgan Gibbs-White. And the fact that there are no Nottingham Forest players on this team with the season that they are having. Morgan Gibbs-White has been fantastic, and I think he deserves to be on this team. I think he would be great there, and you could do something like this. I think would be fantastic. He has just been in such great form. I'm shocked that he has not made this team. I do think we could see 2 different formations here, a 3-back at one point and a 4-back set in the second game, or vice versa, simply to mix it up and show what he can do. These are the kind of games where he's going to want everybody to get some time, so I expect a lot of substitutions. I'm not set on Colwell. In fact, it could be something like this, and then I really don't know what's going to happen at this left back spot. Does Miles Skelly just get that job because he's played out there more than most of these guys? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think about the left back situation? I'm really surprised about that. I do think if they go 3 at the back, You could see, you will see Colwell at that point because he's the left-footed center back. And then, who else are we missing there? You could see a little bit of Dan Burn. You could see, that's where we're going to get Konsa back in there most likely. I could see him. That's probably your 3-back set. And then James here. I still think you could see Gordon. I think you could see Gordon there. Hell, you could see Phil Foden there. Okay? See if we can't jumpstart him a little bit because he has not been the best of the 10s, right? And you could see something like this, but he is left-footed. And if you're willing to sacrifice the defense against some of these weaker teams, get forward, and all of a sudden, whoa, look at that. Dynamic start, right? Or does Gordon go out there, or is Rashford out there? Okay, so you could see something like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, make sure we didn't have an extra player out there. Okay, so you could see something like that. Maybe he goes very heavy on the front foot because they've got the advantage here, and maybe we don't even see Reece James. Maybe it's something like this, and you got Eze in there, right? Maybe we could see something like that, a 3-2-4-1. That's something that Manchester City has used this year against weaker opponents to get all of their attacking midfield / winger types. So that could be something we could see with Rashford or Gordon in there. Lots of possibilities. I do like them better. I do like this roster better with 3 at the back. If you're going to do this, maybe Bellingham does play up as a 10 and you go with a second sort of defensive midfielder. Maybe that's where Jordan Henderson comes in. We haven't even talked about Curtis Jones yet, who is has a very good season. He could play sort of in that 8 role. Morgan Rogers here, that's who I would... Morgan Rogers is a good player. I like what he's doing. He's having a good season, but I'd rather have Morgan Gibbs White. So that's a strange one for me. I don't know that this team needs... Jared Bowen doesn't seem to quite fit. I'm glad they only went with 2 strikers, really, Kane and Solanke. Having a third striker, Ollie Watkins, that's his spot. It probably came down to Watkins or Solanke. But I'm glad they don't have 3. That would have been redundant, just like the 4 goalkeepers. I don't quite understand that. So, generally a good roster, but we've got a lot of possibilities here, in part because it's a good roster, but it's a lopsided roster, right? There are so many good number 10 / winger kind of players. Not a ton of pure wingers. The only pure wingers on this roster are Rashford and Gordon. The others, Foden, Palmer, Rogers, Eze are all sort of better off at number 10s. And when in form, that is Foden and Palmer, hands down. Now, neither one's particularly in form right now, so we will see how that factors into the decision. But when in form, I think let's just say everybody's in form. I would say we've got those guys there. I would try Gordon out back there, and I think this ought to be Trent Alexander-Arnold, but it's Reece James. In fact, I'd be willing to put Trent here and see if Reece James can play on the left side. That would be interesting. But that would be, if everybody's in their best form, I would go with that starting roster. I also would probably take Jared Branthwaite here in Levi Colwell's spot. But nevertheless, with this roster, if everybody's in form, I would go with this. If Saka was healthy, I'd probably put him back there. I didn't mind that when he played there under Gareth Southgate. Greg Berhalter, that's the American coach I couldn't think of, who tries to force everybody into his system. It came to me mid-video. But given this team, I would try something like this. And then if he goes with 4 at the back, one of these guys has to come off. I would probably try Colwell out there at the left back because he can then stay back defensively when they move forward. And then you could keep the same formation. And that's why I'm not too hung up on formations, because you could keep this same exact lineup and do this, right? So if you see this lineup, Colwell, Gahey, Konsa, James, Bellingham, Rice, Gordon, Palmer, Foden, Kane. If you see that roster, that could be 3 at the back. That could be 4 at the back. That could be a 4-2-3-1. That could be a 4-3-3. That could be anything, which is why we get too hung up on formations, right? This could be, these same 10 guys could play in so many different formations. And so we can't get too hung up. In fact, they may switch, partway through the game. What we need to focus on is really the fundamental tactics of Tuchel's play, which is centering everything around the number 10s. Okay, that's a key tactic, and having 3 at the back in build-up. So when going forward, there is 3 at the back. That is a staple of Thomas Tuchel. Now, it doesn't mean you have to start with 3 at the back, and it can be more of a left-back type player, right? So if Gordon is, or if, let's say you have, Livramento here, and maybe he's the one you want to get forward, then maybe James hangs back a little bit. And I think that's a waste of Reece James a little bit, but nevertheless. Or Kyle Walker, who has amazingly still made this team, and even more amazingly has played some center back, like actual center back for the English national team. It could be something like this, right? And Livramento's getting forward, and you've got more of this kind of setup, right? So let's say it's something like this. That could be 4-3-3, right? Something like this, okay? That's not bad. That's not terrible. So it could be something like this. So the possibilities are really endless, but it's a lopsided roster because there's so much talent, but a lot of it is at number 10, and there's no true right wing, and there's no true left back. So for all of the talent in the English player pool, there's no true left backs, and there's no true right wings because Bukayo Saka's hurt. So, that really makes it interesting to see what they're going to do. I would love to get your thoughts if you're watching this after the live stream ends or what have you. Get down in the comment section. Let me know what you think, if I'm missing anything. Follow us on Twitter and Blue Sky at Pitchside Pub. Make sure you hit the subscribe button for me down below. And also make sure you check out James Alcott's channel. I'm going to put it down in the description. This is his tactics board that I'm using here. Absolutely fantastic for demonstrating some of this stuff. I hope that made it a little easier to understand the sort of stuff I'm saying. So big shout out to James, who does a great job, and thank you for sharing that and letting us use that. And it'll be interesting. I will be watching this with a close eye to see how this plays out and what Thomas Tuchel has in mind, because the possibilities here are endless. But what I will say one more time is do not get too hung up on the formation as it's listed on the player announcement when it comes out an hour before the game. We got to watch these. We got to watch and see what they do and how they actually move, because even with the same 10 guys, the way they line up could be vastly different. Even within the game, it could change. And it doesn't matter if it could be listed as 4 in the back, 3 in the back, wing backs, all this different stuff, wings, number 10s. None of it matters until you get into the game. So how they're actually listed on the piece of paper has almost no relevance. So I'll be watching, and we can come back to this and see how close I was. But get in that comment section. Make sure you subscribe, and thanks as always for watching here on Pints and Punditry at the Pitchside Pub.